Hey guys, welcome back. It's your brother in Christ, Weston. Thanks for joining me today. So today's article comes out of the Epic Times. Let's get into it. Okay, so man, I don't know where to start with this one. This one is definitely lining up with Bible prophecy so well. So let's talk about it. It says this: Chinese regime uses C19 QR code to restrain rights, lawyers' mobility. This article is nuts. And it's just funny. I look at the first, there's a comment right here and it says, is this a surprise to anyone? We're next. And by golly, we are. Okay, it says here, this was dated today by Alex Wu, who's the publisher of this article. The Chinese regime is using a C19 health code for a blank emic control as a means for social control. Recently, several rights lawyers and legal experts have revealed that their health codes suddenly changed from green to red without any reason. This is all based around the social credit score, right? That's already being enacted there, right? Where you have like 400 and something million, 444 million cameras all over China. By means they probably have more than that at this point, and you can just see, pictures of yourself, holograms and whatnot of just you plastered across the wall, and your social credit score, right? And so then people can look at you, and then they can obviously be embedded with thoughts like you're not a good person, you're not with the government, you spread propaganda, you pretty much anti everything, right? And it couldn't even be that. It could be that you just have a different narrative, and there's actually what you're saying is the actual truth, but since it doesn't line up with the current powers that are governing the big C, you can brainwash masses of people like that and literally make them think you're something you're not just by images alone. And so it says here, they could not travel, it says from green to red without any reason. They could not travel freely and were put in forced quarantine. The Chinese Communist regime adopted a health code QR code system on cell phones to track and monitor the whereabouts of people. The system issues green, yellow, and red codes based on their digital footprints. Within the past 14 days, people must have a green code to go to public places and travel. It gives a picture here. See China Daily Digest newsletter. Get the full picture of what's going on in China. Oh, it's just, you can click here. I can do that if I want to. I'm not going to. Chinese rights lawyer Zi Yang from Shengsha told the Chinese language edition of Epic Times on November 19th that he was on his way to visit the mother of jailed journalist Zhang Zan in Shanghai on November 6th. The Chinese regime national security in Changsha asked him to cancel his trip on November 5th, but he refused. When he got to Changsha airport on November 6th, his health code suddenly changed from green to red, which means forced quarantine. When the security personnel at the airport saw my health code is red, he immediately called the blank emic control. So just a mass of people, and this is what he says. A van came, and so did a lot of fully equipped blank emic control staff. You tell me right now that that's not where we're headed with this. And I get infuriated because I just think that people who have taken this and just don't think that this is going to happen. Like, they don't think that this could happen, or because it all comes back to this being good and not what we think it is, and not all this, what we're talking about right now. But look at what's happening over in China. Look at what's happening across the United States. Look at what's happening with girl dates, with civil unrest, with people losing their jobs, with side effects, with injuries, with deaths, mass amounts, by the way. Hospitals being overflooded with people who have gotten this versus people who haven't got it at all. Then you've got your third one, your fourth one, your fifth one. Israel's about to do a fourth one. I just saw an article today about Israel getting ready to do a fourth one of these, and it just floors me that I have yet to see anybody that will come out and say, "Hey, I got this," and I don't agree with any of this. Well, no, I'm going to backtrack. That's not true. I've seen plenty of people, just some people that I think in my head, I'm like, look, like, how can you still align yourself with it? That's more of a true statement. How can you still align yourself with this after everything you see happening and not go, okay, maybe At least it's on the table for you that something is wrong here, and maybe it's all smoke and mirrors. Maybe it's something different. Maybe there's an agenda. Just maybe. And it's like, hey, man, like a maybe goes a long way. And look how far it's taken us. So here it says Z said that he feared that they would take him to an unknown location. It sounds incredibly scary for forced quarantine. So he ran out of the airport and jumped into a taxi to go home. Later, he received a call from the staff of Shangzhou, three-letter acronym, asking him about his health code. I angrily scolded them, saying that this was the national security's people doing. I have not been anywhere within the past 14 days. Nor have I been to medium or high risk areas. This is blatant persecution. They can clearly see my whereabouts from their big data, and they can. To think that you're not being tracked. Like, I work in cybersecurity, so to think that you're not being tracked, you need to shut off everything off of your phone. But there could still be something that's embedded on the operating system sitting there just in case. That's just like when I'm talking like this, right? Or I'm just talking to this one. This is my work phone, and I'm just talking, and then these things pick up adware or spyware, right? And then it's like conversations that we had. All of a sudden, you're on your site that you frequent, and here it pops up an ad, and it's something that you talked about, something that you frequent, something that you like, and you're like, how did that happen? Isn't that spooky? Yes, that's real life. And so, yeah, I mean, China watching everybody, and they have a social credit score system, and they have millions, if not at least a billion amount of cameras at this point, everywhere. And they can, and the tech that they have, hypersonic missiles. Like, come on, man, this is Minority Report at its finest. Like, getting ready to just, yep, we're the next Minority Report pre-crime. Like, come on, this is real. And why this is important, just watching how it adopts into a Revelation 13 society where the 10 kings, there's 10 kings or 10 horns, Daniel 7, what is it? And the 10 horns, there is a little horn who rises up and subdues 3. It means that he humiliates, humbles, or brings low 3 kings, and he's the 8th. And it says he's a pompous one. He speaks with he has eyes and a face and speaks these pompous words against the Most High. He persecutes the saints. It is this kingdom that happens when he signs this in Daniel 9:27, where he signs a 7-year covenant or a week-long covenant with the Jews. And then he breaks that covenant in the middle of the week, 3.5 years. Well, how do you get to a society that would even agree to that guy in this beast system with these QR codes, with the mark of the beast, right hand, forehead, buying and selling, one world government, one world worship, you have one world currency, everybody's watching you, you have the image of the beast as well. Like, how do you get there? It's right there. Like, it's right there. And it all starts with this going into people. And then what is that doing to people? I've talked about this, almost like it's like mind control or something. Can they even think for themselves? Will they be able to will they be controlled, and then radio waves will come in, and then they'll just sit there and yes, we will do everything that this thing says because we can't think for ourselves and are being taken. Exactly. It is not out of the realm of possibility, and it's actually more feasible, and it makes total sense. Because who would want to take the mark of the beast, knowing if you had Christians and 144,000 people, 144,000 Jews with the mark of God on their head, and you had angels in the sky, and you had 2 witnesses proclaiming the gospel saying this is what's going to happen, and you have Christians like me who are screaming it at the top of our lungs, do not take this or you will be eternally damned. You will go to hell, then you'll go to be judged at the great white throne judgment, and then you'll go to the lake of fire. All this was prepared for the devil and his angels, not for you. But since you took it, or since you died in your sins and unbelief, that's where you're going. Not and sitting there during that time, going through all that, knowing it's not Satan that's doing it, it's God doing it. It's God's wrath. He is pouring it all out. 7 seals, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, and 7 bowls. Right. How does this happen? It is authoritarian. It is tyrannical. It is communist as can be. Socialism. It's all of that just meshed, and somehow people. It's because of I just fully believe it's because of the inconvenience of having to deal with something and having to fight back, and for lack of better words, wanting to always be cooperative when you shouldn't. It's the case of saying, hey, when the Bible tells us that obey God rather than man. And we obey man. God puts governing powers into positions. He does it. He's the one that sets people high, kings high, and brings them down low. That's what he did to Nebuchadnezzar. He does what he does to everybody. But when the king in place is going against what God is allowing, or what it stands for in biblical means, in terms of God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, the triune God, you serve God rather than man. And anyways, okay, let's finish because this article's kind of long. He said the blank emic prevention staff in the community then came to his home to do a nucleic acid test. I hope I can say that on him. They want to find an excuse for themselves. On November 7th, his health code changed back to green. Man, he was telling the truth. Z went to the Hunan Provincial's 3-letter acronym prevention and the Changsha City 3-letter acronym place to find out why and how his health code became red. But the authorities refused to provide any information. According to Z, the ruling CCP, or the Chinese Communist Party, has found a new means to suppress dissidents under the guise of a blink emic control. They only need to do a little trick with the health code and they can control a person's movements. Thank God, oh my gosh. And people don't think this is not coming to America. And mind you, I've always given the 3 theories. One, it will come to America. We'll be a part of this whole system and everybody will agree to it. And then you'll have people who are like me, who are completely radically against it at this point. And then we'll be outed. We'll be outcast. We won't be able to buy and sell. We'll be on a blacklist somewhere. You'll be somewhere where it's like, hey, people are gonna know who you are, and you're not gonna be able to do anything. It's pretty much like just shutting you completely off from society, right? With jobs, with cars, with bank accounts. I've told you about that. You'll be a second-rate citizen, and you won't be able to get the nicer things. You have to get the hand-me-downs. You have to get the worst things. That's how it will be. They will make life hard. 2. The U.S. will rise up against this antichrist system and somehow subdue it, or not subdue it, put it at bay, or at least put up a fight against it and lose. Or the U.S. will come out of it and they will fight back and somehow keep back the antichrist system as much as they can until the Lord comes back. Doesn't mean there won't be casualties or anything like that. Those are the 3 scenarios that I see, and I haven't landed on one. The latter one I want to happen. The other 2 I feel like are the best, the more probable ones that are going to happen based on just what I see in Scripture and what I read about Revelation 13. And unless I'm convinced otherwise, but I'm praying for the latter. So here it says here, according to Z, movements. Another Chinese human rights lawyer, Wang Yu, was similarly blocked from returning to Beijing during CCP's party conclave until November 16th. She told the Chinese Epoch Times on November 17th that she was on a business trip to Mudanjiang City in Heilongjiang Province. Her health code showed that she had visited a blank emic area. Although Mudanjiang is not. Her health code turned back to green when the party conclave finished, and then she was allowed to return to Beijing. Can't even return to cities. That's crazy. Just, nope, you're not coming in here. Not at all. It doesn't matter. And it's just like, what if that's the only place where a supermarket's at, or your local grocery store, or a gas store, or medicine, or a doctor? Like, you just don't see how they can manipulate that, and then like, okay, well, the doctor you're gonna get is only gonna be in this area, so it looks like you won't be able to have medical means, and they can only see you once every 6 months. And it's like, what? Like, that's what I'm talking about. That's real. Like that could really happen, and it's on the table just reading this article. Wang said this incident happened during the 6th plenary session of the CCP and is done primarily to maintain stability for the regime and restrain human rights activist movements. It is now done based on the blink emic to control people's freedoms. Similar situations have happened to others, Chinese lawyers as well. Mainland Chinese media Jinan Daily reported that Sichuan lawyer Liu Jiong health code suddenly turned from red to green when she was working in Xin City. In the Shanxi province, Liu was almost put into forced quarantine. Liu asked the Xin blank emic control personnel for legal documents and threatened to sue Shanxi provincial gov. The blank emic prevention personnel eventually let him get on the train and return to Chengdu. Mainland legal scholar Shen Hongguo revealed on his Chinese social media WeChat account that November 11th he took a high-speed rail from Yuchang into Shanxi province in Xin. After getting off the train, his health code changed to yellow and showed that he had been to the Philippines within 14 days. Wow. Despite never leaving the country, he was sent home for forced isolation by the blank emic control staff. The next day after he filed a complaint, his code turned back to green, and his travel record to the Philippines was deleted. That's crazy. And this is also going to happen with digital currencies. You don't think that's not going to become centralized? So then they can track your movements. Remember when the current administration was trying to get the FBI or the IRS to be able to look at any part of, like, I think it was $400 to $600 purchases, they would be able to track. What? Like, you're gonna track everything that I'm doing and what I am buying? Tell me it doesn't start with this. Tell me that came from somewhere else. No, it didn't. It didn't. Why did you're not, this is not even on like the table of discussion until this showed up. Not in the previous administrations. There was nowhere about that. And mind you, I still have my qualms or my guards up about our previous admin. I'm trying not to say names to make sure that I can keep this video alive. And though I would agree more with that and agree with what he did, still this he touts and praises about. And guess what? I'm not for it, and I would be saying the exact same thing to him that I would with our current admin. And so don't get me wrong here. I'm team Jesus. I'm team like, hey, you guys want to see real climate change. You want to see real justice. You want to see what like the most devastating things that could happen, the most terrifying things that could happen. You want to see when walls are put up and you can't come into a kingdom. You want to see what it really looks like. You don't want to see it when he comes, because it's going to be bad. It's going to be so good, but it's going to be bad for anybody who's against it. Bad. And then there's this last one here. It says, Wang Songlian, a senior researcher at the Human Rights Watch in Hong Kong, told Hong Kong and media Ming Pao that the data collected by the Chinese regime through the health code records people's movements 24/7. It's a serious violation of human rights. Furthermore, all the data can be synced in real time, and the police can read all the information. People have no privacy at all. And guess what? People who just think that privacy is just, hey, let me just tell my employer that I'm, whether I am this or not. You have no idea. I've said it plenty of times. It is a slippery, it's such a slippery slope. It's real bad. Like, it's real bad if you just willy-nilly want to just give up all that health information. No one's doing that. That's not a thing. That's never been a thing. It's been confidential. That's why we have HIPAA laws, PII. That's an SPII. What is it? I know about all this. CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Like, that stuff is not anybody's business. I don't want to know. Don't tell me. It's none of my business. Unless you want to tell me, great, cool. But I'm not looking to tell anybody else. I'm not looking to tell you anything that I've gotten or haven't gotten or whatever. Why? Because it's none of your business. I don't care if we're best friends. Like, look, bro, if I want to say something, I will. Look, work, if I want to say something, I will. Like, this is nuts. And look at our where we're at today with who is running the country. And you tell me everything that's going on, that it's just some kind of big CT scheme. Some big, just the people like me, the big CT theories, right? Are just nuts, out of our mind. And I promise you, you're gonna have a billion other fingers pointing back at you going, look at all the evidence. And you still would prefer not to believe it. That's the sad part. And that's just kind of what I see is happening with everybody. And that just means everybody who refuses not to believe it. And then that's most of the masses. And that's why we get to our Revelation 13. And that's how it happens. And people want money, people want power, people want fame, people want recognition. They want this life instead of the next one. They want it now instead of later. They'll give up whatever. They will cross any line. They'll ignore any red flag. Why? Because of pride, because of power. And it's going to be a bad day for some people. And I'm just hearing article after article. It's sad to say, but I pray that I don't see people just dropping like flies. It's just one of the things that my wife and I continue to talk about, like, just I just feel like one day it's gonna be like people that have gotten this, they're just gonna fall, and people are gonna go, "What happened?" And guess what? They're not gonna blame it on this. They're gonna blame it on something else that just showed up. Because this was never it, right? And all these things that are happening to try to sneak its way in under the guise of the C19, right? Just get in there. Anyways, that's the video, guys. Thanks for sticking around. 20 minutes long. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you see what's happening. What's happening here, and if it's gonna come here or not, and how you think it gets here. And that's the video, guys. Leave me a comment. I'll see you in the next one.